Mm. Hello there, Mary.
Hey,
Hey, good day to you. Good evening to you.
good evening.
Ah, I'm
Okay.
glad. I'm glad that that you reached out and that we're in this space here today. Um, I I love this year because like as this goes on, I'm learning more and more about what this movement is and how things are coming to life. It's very interesting, Mary, because what's happening right now is I'm like a part of me is like, oh, we can just keep going, and no one needs to know that we started 40 minutes into the hour and so on, right? And another part of me is like, no, actually, I'm like this whole thing is about how do we create what we're creating, and allowing more space um, for experimentation, messiness, being in the moment, being present to what's there, and calling all that out so that we can learn from each other as we're going through our journeys to basically go and create a more joyful world. So I'm glad that you reached out and you're like, hey, like, is it still going on? Because I'm here and no one else is, and it created this opportunity. It created this conversation. So I'm just very present to that as we go ahead and get started with one another. How's your day been?
Um, okay.
Yeah. If this conversation, what's a step up above okay for you?
Hmm. Um, Something a little bit more productive along the lines of my life coaching business and creating what I'm trying to create, which is, what am I trying to create? Um, More specifically, what am I trying to create?
That is, let's play in that space here today. Like, so I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna put some focus on you here and the like you really it's like in the way that you said it, like that's part of why I thought this conversation about what am I creating really like plays out, because you can say it, what am I creating, but then there's also like for me it was like what am I creating, like seriously, like I said I'm making a movement, but what is it, and then like I'll go out there and I'll spend my time watching other people and I'm like, ooh, that's happening with that person's that doing that, maybe I should do that, and then the question becomes, well, what am I created, like, so there's all this different there's all these different ways of looking at this here. My young one is going to be
Yeah.
he's making his presence
You,
known
oh,
right now.
1 second. I
Yeah.
love nature, and I have my windows up, and my neighbor is welding or something. 1 second.
Yeah, I love this here where it's just like it's like clearly we're creating our own space for one another, um, and really creating the space that we need to. What's also fun here, Mary, is that I've noticed that like you may not know this, but when we go into breakout rooms, you'll watch the recording of the conversation we had about the alignment. When we go into breakout rooms, sometimes I'll just leave like a private message to, or not even private, I'll just leave a message to anyone that's watching the recording. So when you stepped out, I'm like, for me, that became the moment again. She just like went to a breakout window and closed the window, and in that I have another message for people here. So let's play Mary. I'm very much very interested in bringing coaching into the World Joy movement. I think that coaching is one of the tools to help us have like this much deeper conversations. And what I'm hearing from you is that you're trying right now, you're looking to articulate with or see the clarity in what it is that you actually are creating.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you know about what you're creating right now. I Let's start there.
What I know about it is um, everything, there's a must for alignment. I'm creating creativity, and the a better awareness and action and movement towards utilizing it, and identifying where what the creativity is within the individual and the organizations and how they're going to use it and the benefits of it. Um, Also, I'm creating better me as a coach, as a person. Um, I'm also creating a more open, welcoming space to for people to be okay to make them feel naked. I, I mean, I've actually ever since I put that out there, I see more people actually are like, okay, so tell me, and I'm like kind of surprised, and I'm like, oh my goodness, action, like camera action, and I'm like, oh, okay, you didn't expect it to come out like that. So what else am I creating?
Can I pause really quickly on this here?
Mhm.
I'm gonna follow my intuition on this as it
Okay.
goes along. All right. That last bit that you just said there, a more open, welcoming space for people to feel naked, right? Um, Firstly, like what a statement right there. You know, like what am I creating? Well, I'm creating a space for people, a more open and welcoming space for people to feel naked. You know, and the response there being, and I want this is part of why I want to slow down on it. The response being I'm curious. Tell me more. You know, we've had
Yeah.
conversations around this here, like where like it almost felt as though the perceived or expected response would be like, "What are you talking about? There's no way I want this." Like, what did you think people would say when you came out there and said, "I'm creating a more open and welcoming space for people to feel naked"? However, you said it out in the world. What were your expectations when you first said that?
um, Actually, I think those words I just said it like now. I I've told besides you and a couple of my friends, I told a person that I consider a stranger that recently met in like initial conversation, um, who opened up to me in um in a naked way, and then eventually asked me what is my main career, like what is it I want, like what did I intend to do, and what is it I want to do, and I'm like, I'm doing what I want to do. And I went into the conversation about um, the gift of making people feel naked, and the response was, um, "Oh, wow! So tell me, make me feel naked right now." And I was like, oh, "I didn't expect that." I mean, my expectation was just for it to be received as a statement, like, that's cool. Yeah, you make people feel naked, and you explained it, so I get it, and that's a nice thing, and that's it. Didn't expect that. Oh, that lean in to like, okay, I want to know more about this.
Like this is why we needed to pause on this and slow down on this here, right? Because like how often do we have a conversation in our mind that like people either won't understand it or they'll just say, okay, yeah, or like,
Mm-hmm.
but to actually have someone be interested or intrigued, at least to be like, let me lean in on this one here. Tell me more. You know, like I'm here, do your thing, make me feel naked. Like not only is there intrigue, but there was actually desire and want.
Mm-hmm.
Like the person didn't shut down. They actually leaned in and said, and like this is an act of vulnerability, right? Where like when you're if you're not being vulnerable, you'll close off and you'll pull back and pull away. But leaning in is actually an act of vulnerability. It's like I'm here, see me, make me feel naked.
Yeah.
I want to I like if we can just even just slow down into the power of that. Like, let me just ask you, Mary, what might happen if you like if every person you came in contact with, you gave them the opportunity to lean in. Not everyone will, but you gave them the chance to lean in. What might change as it comes to what you're creating?
Man, wow. Giving people that chance. that there just might be several people that are intrigued by it, that actually do lean in and welcome it. There may be more than less that welcome it. And there may be more than less that don't. But I'll be okay with that because I'm used to that one.
That's what you're expecting anyway. That's
Mhm.
like to me that's no longer interesting. It's like cool.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah. Look, like to me it'd be really fun to go out and go and create opportunities for people to lean in. Like you don't have to right now you don't even have to create what happens afterwards,
Mhm.
just create the opportunity for people to lean in, you know, create the opportunities for you to be like, what now?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like without having to get from A to Z, let's take it like if right now you're at A to C and they're opening up the door, that's where we need to be. That's like there's magic in that creation right there.
Mhm.
And the importance of this here is actually is there's a many of different reasons, but the importance of this is to help strengthen your muscle such that you just like there becomes an inner knowing. It's like it's someone will call it confidence, right? But it's like they're like, how did you get so confident in asking about this? Like, well, because I was courageous the first few times, you know.
Mhm.
So let me there's more that's here, but let me just pause in with you. Uh like, does this resonate with you? Like, if we ended the call right now, could you go out in the world and like move your world differently?
I don't think I would. I think
Okay.
maybe one. I wouldn't say 1%. Um, a 0.2% or something.
Yeah.
But like mentally, I would see things differently. I would pause every now and then, like, I wonder what if what if would come up more. What if I created the space?
So this is lovely. Like, and just so you know, I am in there's a couple different things. That element of wait, what? Like, oh, okay, yeah, you're good for this. Um, that has shown up many times throughout my careers, going through coaching and most recently showed up with the World Joy movement itself. I came up with an idea and I said, hey everyone, I'm doing this thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
people are like, okay, cool. I'm telling my friends. I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, what? I'm like,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, what is this? What am I creating? Like,
Mhm.
it that's part of the reason, cause I want to call that out. I want to call out like kudos to you for being in that space and allowing that to be there. Um yeah, just really when I call that there. Um So let's play. There's a couple different things here, but I would be curious. I think since we are in the movement world, I'll be curious around what would need what would need to shift for you so that you would feel like I can go out and move as a result of this conversation. I'm not tied to you moving. I just want to make sure that when we're in our conversation, we're not just talking about the interesting things that show up, but we're going to the needle moving parts of it that say like, okay, if we talk about this, there's a chance that something might shift for me and I might actually show up differently outside of this space. What might that be for you?
Hmm, probably to actually speak on it, to put it out there, and then to have at least a 1% response of somebody leaning in on me. I don't know. I kind of think on results and way ahead of things, and like rather than just being with what is. And I'm like, okay, what's the possible outcomes and how could this go? And if somebody leaned in, what would I do? Um, and would I do, but better yet, would I do anything but freeze? And one thing I don't want to do is freeze because that would lean into my fear. That's my what do you call it, mechanism that I do when I have fear, I freeze. And I don't want to freeze.
So tell me about this experience here. I'm hearing you don't want to freeze here. I'm hearing like it feels like right now we I was asking myself like what's the blockage to creating for you? Like I talk to you, I see that you do this in the world, like you are this in the world, and that there's some kind of blocker. And so it feels like there's something here with the freezing that feels like a like part like I may freeze. Just tell me right here. You talked to one person, you had a conversation, you opened up and a welcoming space for them to feel naked, and you just told them point blank like this is what I do, and they leaned in, and then inside you froze, right?
Yeah.
At least for a second. Like what happened in reality? Like what happened? Like if I was watching this as a movie here, like did you just like stay frozen and then the person just kind of like walk away, like, or like
Well, it was a
what
phone
happened?
conversation,
Yeah,
fortunately.
yeah.
So it was like they were so excited about that part, and then what they were talking about, just the sharing period, because he was already sharing.
Yep.
So it was kind of like, oh, go ahead, make me feel naked. And then he kept talking. So it was like, it was a relief. Like, maybe he doesn't really want to feel naked. He just wants to vent. And then it was like, it came back around, and then there was silence for me to speak. And I was like, what do I say? How do I approach it? It was all those questions in my mind of, what do I do? Do I say this? Do I go this deep? Like what layer deep do I go to actually do this for him to see me in action? Or do I just do a little bit, or do I just dismiss it and it's like, oh, you're not ready for it? Because I also had that feeling too of like, not right now. Because even though I can do that and I see it, I also sometimes have the discernment of this is not the right time, whether it be it needs to be some more weeks or some more conversations or maybe 5 or 10 more minutes, but this is not the right time, um, because they may want to accept it, but they're not going to truly be open to receive it. They're just interested, like, oh, this somebody's going to tell me about myself. Oh, it's kind of like a psychic, and I want to know. Everybody loves a psychic. Tell me. um, but like the trueness of it, I'm like, didn't seem like it was quite there at that point in time in the conversation. So I froze, and I didn't even know how to like articulate, hey, how about not right now?
So wonderful, Mary. Like wonderful here. And for today we're gonna go. I'm gonna bring in some things pretty directly, just given the time here. We have a little less than 5 minutes here, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just come out and share. But I want to reflect back here, come back and even just like watch this here. I was as you were talking, I was like, oh, I wonder if she actually creating the space for her power, creating a space for your power, and then like you said a couple different things, but where you landed was not right now, not right now. And so and then I like not knowing how to actually articulate that and be able to even say that. Let's give that some space here. Let's make that the focus here, right? The
Mm-hmm.
element here. So how do we do this? You said you're talking about building your coaching practice. The like this this to me feels like slowing down the conversation and making sure you stay in your leadership. Like so like of course people are going to want to be like they're going to like if they're going to test you, they're going to try and take the role reversal of being the leader and the thing. Oh yeah, you can make people feel naked. Well, let me armor up. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm leaning like, this is where you use your discernment, and you stay in your power. You take this is where you go into leadership, right? And do you mind if I just put in some words right now? They don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
your words, but I'll put in some words here. I could see it going and saying, I'm happy to make you feel naked. It's what I do. this context right now, the container that we're in, is not powerful enough for that. You might take off a shirt or something like that, but like that's not what either of us are here for, right? So instead, like, this is what I do for a living. I'm a powerful coach, and I create these spaces not just so that they can feel naked, but so that people can walk through the world like with whatever benefit that comes out of it. And I want to create, if you're really serious about this, and only take me up if you are serious about it, if you're really serious about this here, let's create the space where it would actually serve you at the right time. Because right now, this isn't it. Right now, this is not the time. But I am happy to create that space for you. And then see that, and then give them a chance to say yes or no. How does that sound to you?
That sounds awesome. Like, actually put it out there that, hey, this is not the space. Let's create a space for it. Or, I mean, even if I put it out there, hey, I'm making people feel naked, and it's a good time. It is a space to continue the conversation. Then, knowing just that, it helps me not freeze, because I can recognize, I have that discernment that, okay, they are ready, or this is a good space. So let me see if I'm in a good space to be ready to, okay, because even though I recognize a lot, that doesn't mean I'm in that space to ready to um, me be open to what they have going on. I see their spirit and all of that, but I'm not always. I have my own thing going on. I'm still human. I'm not always in that space to really just go there. I mean, and serve them powerfully. It would be an injustice to do so just because they ask and just because there's an opportunity. But if I'm not ready to fully do it, then I should pause on it.
So that's this. So firstly, I have an extra 15 minutes. Today's film is very time bound. I'm like, that's a bit of my discomfort. I'm usually just like, let's just go. You know, today feels time bound by, and I recognize that. Are you good to stay on for another 15 minutes? This is interesting, and I want to like continue to support you. If so, if you feel like you got what you need, or you have to take off, we can close this conversation as it is. But I'm good to keep going if you are.
I'm good if you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That sounds good. And what I'll do is that I'll bring us to a close when the time comes out. You might see me look down and to the left. That's just when I'm looking at my time. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Like, so there's now you're bringing in two different things, right? You have, are they ready? Is right now the right time for them? And then another part of, am I ready? Is right now the right time for me? And that's, you're a coach, you bring it, and you're so much more than that, right? Like you're like the spiritual guidance, you know, like, and it's not to say is the power on or off. It's just, I love you said, like, I have my stuff. Like I'm just going to the grocery. I was just calling up to see what's going on here. Like you can't just, I'm not a light switch. Yeah, you can't just push the on button and then expect greatness out there.
Right.
And if you do expect that, that's part of my business. You know, if you do expect that, there's a that's not just something that I just go out and give into the world in this capacity. I'm happy to go and create time and create space, but there may be a certain group of people who get access to, I'll hit the on button, you know?
Right. As a coach, and when I decided to turn it over to business, that's one thing that I've had to work with, and people who know me and are used to me doing it automatically are like, wait a minute, like, you mean you're not going to do that thing you do? Like, I'm like, well, I do this also for a living, and for it's joy, but it's so much more than joy. And then I have that thing. I need to be able to not always be so available. or make myself available. I have a tendency to make availability all the time, and it's frustrating when, like you just said, those time restraints. If I'm feeling a time restraint, as much as I want to in my heart, and I'm so open, what is it serving me to, and what is it serving them for me to make that available space and then have these time restraints, knowing good and darn well, like all these other things. And then all of a sudden, I did that, made that space, created, spread out that time, and everything else just either goes to shit fan, or I don't do it. It gets behind, and it's like a whole big trail derailment. One cart after the other. And if that happens, how long before I crash and I'm not able to be there powerfully for people, and I have to take more time to for self-care of me, for self-care of my family.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Now,
it's
normally I like to answer. I apologize. I know I'm interrupting here. There's certain elements here that are playing out. Sometimes I let it play out. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I can see. I think like I can see where you want to go. Let's go there. We'll see how today. That's how I feel like playing. Right? Are you good with that?
I'm good.
All right, cool. Um, Normally I would have us answer the rhetorical question. The rhetorical question is a question that you're like, well, what would I do? Like, I'd be like, well, what would you do? Normally I'll put that in this space. However, I like we're here in the joy of it all, right? And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things for me is like we ask, what are we creating? I don't think we want to be creating a place where you get to burn out, or you get to this place where I don't think we want to
Right.
create that, right? So instead, we want to look at it and see like how can we create something such that never ends up being the case. One of the
Right.
things that intuitively came to me on this year is to flip the order of it, right? So right now, right now it feels like if it happened, right, and we're creating for this. There's new things. We're creating more space for this. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, it feels like if you went out to someone and you told them that like you helped them feel naked or what, like, and the energetic transmission came up such that they're like, I'm leaning in, right? There'll be the freeze that takes place, and then they'll be like, it's now the right time for them, it's now the right time for me. And if I go and I create space, what needs to like go, what's gonna go and hit the shit fan, what's gonna like fall away, like all that stuff, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like as that the natural progression ends up being burnout. Am I getting that right? Am I following? Am I tracking properly?
Burnout is not, I use that word for just lack of going into a lot, but it's a whole lot more that takes place with me internally.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Are
yeah.
you good with us using, we'll use the word burnout. Are you good with us using the word burnout for now to represent the
Yeah.
whole lot more that's going on with you
Yeah.
internally? Okay.
Definitely.
It's very important that you let me know that though. So, because we're not looking at just traditional burnout. We're looking at like, we're using that
Right.
word, but it represents so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
other times we'll continue to go and unpack what all those things mean. But for now, let's go with like, okay, we're in the understanding that it's not just the traditional burnout. It's more.
Right. Right.
Given that, am I tracking properly? Is this how like the thought process is going? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I just said? Okay.
Definitely.
So my invitation for you is to create the space in advance. Right now I'm hearing a lot of like I'm caught off guard. What do I do? Freeze, and it's like
Yes,
and
that's
it's all that.
exactly what I'm saying is that I'm used when I the times when I don't freeze, I create in advance or at least a scenario like, okay, here. And
What does that mean? Scenario here. What does that mean?
like it's a little bit more, it's not concrete, but sort of like, oh, more than likely it'll flow like this. And more than likely it'll flow like that. Or it doesn't matter which way it flows. I'm good with both ways. I'm good with it. Um, and I'm a flow person. And when I'm not good with the flow, that's the freeze. It's
Gotcha.
not even knowing what the flow is. It's being okay with whatever the flow is.
So let's play with this here. Like ultimately I'm someone that's going to want to see you be in as much flow as possible, right? That's where we're going to
Mm-hmm.
play. And I also recognize that right now you're going through a bit of a transition to get to this place. There'll be a time we'll talk in 3 months and someone says like, what do you do? And like, I make people feel naked. Like, oh great, can I experience it? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. This is like not here, not right now. Like if you really want to experience it, this is how we do it. And it's just going to be
Mm-hmm.
natural. Like you'll be in flow about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
For now, what I'm going to invite you to do is actually take some time in advance for you to create that here, that space that says this is where it's going to be for right now. And what that looks like concretely is maybe putting aside 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week, whatever it is, back to back, one block, whatever it is. That's just like, this is your make someone feel naked time, you know, or wait in nakedness time with someone, right? And it's just, it's a space that you hold on your calendar for that. And if there's someone who has come into your life that says, oh great, I'm raising my hand, I like to make me feel naked, it's like, I don't just do this here, like we create the space. What I do have is one time a week, or I have a space once a month to actually create this kind of space for someone, because it's actually something quite special. We're looking not just at your physical nakedness, but your spiritual nakedness too. Like I will see you. And I want to make sure that you get into a space to be able to do it. You can prepare for the conversation as well, because it will change your life should you be willing to come into it. And in my life here, the next time I have available for it is on this day at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, like, and like that way you can continue to be in leadership. You can help them know that, like, hey, when I step into this space, this is how I'm going to be. But it also doesn't have to derail everything else that's in your life. You don't have to go and figure out, where am I going to create the time for this? What's going to move around there? It's like, put it on your calendar. It might be something that's 2 weeks from now, so you don't have to feel like you have to change anything right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? But put it on your calendar 2 weeks from now. Have that space there, and honor that space, even if no one's signed up for it. Like I would use that time, what, an hour, 3 hours, whatever it is, to go out and say, to like be in this kind of conversation with, and just allow yourself to like listen into that. But now instead of trying, it feels like you have a rock somewhere in your river. And what happens there is that the flow is able to naturally work its way around the rock. The water's still going to keep coming in, but you have like this one place where you know that I can get solid foot in, as opposed to being in the flow. And then all of a sudden you're like, where am I going to put my foot down? And it's like, oh wait, there's a rock coming up. All I got to do is stay in the flow, and eventually I'll stand on that rock and I can stand there with someone. Let me pause there. How does that feel for you?
Those words, "stand on that rock," like really hit me. And I looked towards I took it down and put it somewhere else. There's a drawing that I have, of course, that I drew a long time ago. I think it's this one and this one. That was this one. It's both of them. I drew this one a very long time ago, like probably before my children were born. My oldest is nearly 17. I drew this one after both of them were born. And they're similar because over here it says, "On this rock I shall build my church." And over here it says that, "O ye rock, cry out to thee." And it's very personal. Um, it makes me go back to, okay, this vision and this me was here a long time ago. I didn't know what it was and what was going on, but it was here because this was intended to be literally my heart and the things that I've gone through. And I try to make it look like a realistic heart than the traditional heart. And the things that matter to me, which I'm very spiritual and close to God. And this is supposed to be a tattoo. This was something I was just sketching and actually on the back of an agenda in the middle of a meeting. And oh, this part is the Bible, and I was reading it, and it says, for such a time as this. And it says, quench not the spirit, stir up the gift. And I was totally reminded of that scripture. Like, I was maybe like in my teens or early 20s when a lady recognized that gift in me, and she came to me and reminded me. She said that, and to this day, she will say that to me. She always reminded me not to quench it and but to stir it up. And she always said, you have a gift and a multiple gifts, but a really great, like massive one. And you probably don't recognize the capacity of it yet. You know it's something, but you don't recognize the capacity. And it's not serving you or others if you quench it. And so that statement just brought me back to that whole life story and series of stories of this reoccurring thing in my life about going out there and flowing into that, put it out there. Hey, I'm creating a space where people can feel naked. You want to feel naked? And be okay with it. Like whatever happens.
This is, man, like this here. There's so much in it. You might come out and find out that even after you go and you say, I'm creating a space for people to feel naked, eventually that might evolve into something else that you're creating a space for. You might say it differently, like, you drew those pictures years ago, and yet you've kept them, and in great condition, So like the things that you say now need not be what you say years, months, weeks, days, or even minutes from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we're in the space of here is creating the space for you to have that rock for you to stand on, right? And
Yes.
and being able to like being in the practice of that. You have many gifts, you have multiple gifts. And like what I love about this movement is that part of this movement is a space for those gifts to continue to come out, to be defined, to be redefined, to be refined, and all that, to be practiced in it. And so right now we're gonna end this conversation here. But one of the things that come up that I'm gonna invite you to here is to be in the space of creation around this, right? So when the freeze comes up, like I would even create the freeze as something powerful for you, you know, like it does. Like I've been frozen for the last few days with the World Joy Movement, and at the same time, in that time, I've been having a lot of really meaningful conversations, and there's still stuff happening, but like there's a lot of more happening underneath the surface that like hasn't yet come up yet. So my invitation is perhaps allowing someone to ask you that, and if you're feeling the freeze, just you call it out. You're like, you know what? I can't practice. I can't ask someone else to feel naked if I'm not willing to feel it right now, and I do. And what I like to do is just take a second, just breathe in, and just calibrate to what what the next thing is here, or just to see what my body's saying, right? And just allowing the freeze to be part of the gift as well, you know, and looking for places and looking for people who in the future will make you freeze, because eventually you'll be like, you can say it to anyone, but would you say it to the CEO of this thing or someone that you really respect in some part of your life? Like the person who makes you freeze would be something really great. So I would look to see be open to the space of creating that as a gift as well. And as we leave here, I invite you to create this space for you to powerfully to do your magic. Let's put it that way. I invite you to powerfully create that space, as well as powerfully create the person. And that's part of what's happening, like in this language, in the I don't just do this on the fly, because that person right there isn't showing up in a way that's ready. But if you can, it might be, there might be questionnaires, there might be things like filters they need to do, there might be things that they need to go through to make themselves ready to be in a space to actually feel naked with you the way that you do it. And so I'm just going to invite you to lean into that and to create the person that will show up in this conversation as well. And a lot of times we miss that. It's not the person that we see on the street that ends up being the person that that we actually spend time with in our coaching experiences. We want to create them and help them show up for themselves in their highest level of creation or in their highest space for where else shows up. And part of your invitation is part of that, right? It's the flow's happening, but if you orient yourself this way, you'll be on the rock and you'll be ready to stand when it comes. Otherwise, you'll miss that rock when it comes by. Are you good with that?
Like a lot of things just kept coming, and I'm like, just that, man, I'm like, I gotta write all this down.
So we'll end this. I want to leave space for that. Let's just leave this here with what's your greatest insight here? If there was one thing that you can take off from as a result of this conversation, what's your greatest insight from this conversation?
Continue to create the rock.
Fantastic. Well, I'm grateful for what we're creating, and we're going to continue working on this and continue to create out here. I'm grateful for the way that you show up in the world. Thank you for creating opportunities and allowing Flo to be here. I see you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in our next conversation. One of the things I will say is that we're going to be introducing this thing called a master heart within our space. And the master heart is different than a master mind. It's a place for us to come together and be and share, be of one heart. And these are some of the places where if you're looking to see what is it that I do? What do I say here? It gives us a chance to get into small groups with different people and have multiple people come in and help you explore that. So I have a feeling that there's some things that you're working through that a master heart would really serve, in addition to the kinds of conversation that we're having. So I just want to give you a heads up to look out for some of that as it comes up. Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. We'll end this. We'll close this space down here. I see you. I hear you. Go out and be world joy. I'll talk to you soon. It's the World Joy Movement. Yeah. What was your greatest insight from this conversation? And if you want to come and be a part of a conversation like this live, it's really simple. Just go to beworldjoy.com and come introduce yourself, and let's take the conversation to the next level because you're there now. All right, let's play.